welcome to the Light Gate on this last Monday in May, Memorial Day. I would like to take a second to say I'm honored to be ex-military myself, and I have many relatives who are fought and served our country well. And for all our Gold Star people hanging around here and everyone else who loves those in the military, we honor you, and we also have great memories to share with one another of those battles that our great loved ones have been in and gave for us. We coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Facebook, we're on Rumble, we're on Roku, and we're on YouTube. We have a really lovely show tonight. It's going to be a really good one, as a matter of fact. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for our network. Thank you, Carnation. We love you very much, and we know that you honor this day as well as we do. Preston, I'm going to hang it over to you.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not so sure we're going live at this point.
We are.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we are.
Yeah, we are.
For some reason it's not showing up on my channel. I always like to make sure that it's live, but I guess, yeah, people are hearing us. Okay. Very cool. I just want to make sure if there's, I don't know why it's not playing for me, but it's neither here nor there. All right. Well, thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is episode 109 on the Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. And, of course, my lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. We're working on the sequel to Symmetry, the book that I wrote about her. So excited about that. Also have a little bit of good news. I may have mentioned this last show, but I'm so excited about it. I'm trying to get all my books on audio. And just recently got my book, Humanoids and High Strangeness, on audio. Super happy about that. And yeah, we got a great guest for you tonight. I'll introduce him in just a second. Do want to say a quick hello to all you folks in chat. It's because of you we do this show. It's so exciting to see all these familiar faces and occasionally some new ones too. Our ratings are just going up, up, up. Our producers are very happy. So of course are we.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see that people are showing an interest in these topics. And I'm so excited about speaking with our guest tonight because OBEs is one of the topics we will be discussing, astral projection. And he's pretty good at it. I've talked to him before. He's got this amazing book he's working on, soon to be released. We'll be talking a little bit about that and all of his experiences. But yeah, let's see who we got here tonight. We have Teresa Levine. Nice to see you here. And Brian with a very nice thing to say. Mondays used to be so boring. Then, of course, came the Light Gate. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Very, very nice of you.
Thank you.
We have Robin.
Hi,
we
Robin.
have Cherise, who I now know how to pronounce.
Hello.
Hello, Louise from New Jersey. Hope you're doing well. We have Crochet Sensei, all the way from Australia. Oh, it's Anzac Day. Very cool. Yeah. Happy Memorial Day, folks.
Yes.
Today is Memorial Day, so yeah, happy holidays. We have Ruth Kleiber from Ontario, Canada. Oh, I didn't know you were in Ontario, Ruth. Very cool. Okay. Let's see, who else do we have here? We have Namaste. Namaste, we love you so much.
Thank you,
for your endless well of generosity and goodwill.
Love you very much.
In the world like you, so thank you. We absolutely adore you. I'll say it every week because I mean it. We really do.
Yeah.
Flea Market Gold.
Hi.
We have Yahira Medium.
Yahira.
And Patsy Foister. Hello, Patsy.
Hi, Patsy. How you doing?
She says hello to our guest today, too, Gerard. And we have Arvo. We have Scarlet Fire. Please remember our veterans. Yes. Thank you, all of you out there who have given to our country. It means a lot to every one of us. Star Orchid. Awesome.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.
Love right back at you. Very, very nice of you. We have Brenda Whelan. We have Jay Kirshenman confirming that he can actually hear us. So thank you.
Yeah.
And we have White Dragon. Oh my goodness, we've got a nice crowd here. J.R. Amadeus Schiffer. Awesome.
Hey.
We have, who else do we have here? Brenda Whelan. This always reminds me of Romper Room with the magic mirror. I see Preston. I see some of you may not remember that, but kind of dating myself there. The magic mirror.
My brother loved Romper. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
We have Farah Church. Look at that. Love the light.
Oh, thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you very
of
much.
you. You guys, your generosity, it just warms my heart. It makes me feel so special. It really does. Like people out there actually do care. So thank you. Thank you. We do work so hard at this, and this helps us so much. So thank you very much, Farah. John P. Adventures. We have Terry Denise Slayman. We have a nice
Yeah.
big crowd.
She's saying,
João Batista da Silva Silva.
ah,
Wendy Parks, all the way from London. Our guest
how
is
about
from
that?
London. So how about that?
You're staying up late. Thank you. It's
We have
amazing.
White Dragon saying, I just love all the unusual stories. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kaleidoscope Eyes from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Kaleidoscope eyes.
Did you feel that earthquake, Kaleidoscope Eyes?
We did. I was outside when it happened. Oh,
About 2
wow.
weeks ago, 3
Yeah.
or so.
Freaked me right out. Yep. That was my first earthquake ever.
That was my 25th.
Yeah.
California. You guys from California know. We have Bob Thorson. Thank you, Bob. Oh, so very nice of you. Hope you're doing really well. Scuba Maru.
Hey.
We have Robin. We have
Hey.
Stu Walker.
Hello, Stu.
Brian Morgan getting a question in early. I'm putting a star next to that. Yeah, get your questions in early. Much better chance of getting them answered. Truth Wave Energy Meditation. Love your show. Oh, thank
cool.
you.
Thank you.
It's very, very nice of you. Scarfire, Mrs. Jean, Magic Mirror. Yep. Okay. I'm not the only one who knows. The Romper Room generation is here. Okay.
Hey, listen, I listened to Clarabelle, okay? And Captain Kangaroo. Yeah.
Okay, Glenn Anderson. Wow. Glenn, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Alicia, I was excited to see Ross Coldheart mentioned you. Yeah, he gave a shout out to my book, Schoolyard UFO Encounters, and called it, get this, great. Whew, can't ask more than that.
It shocked Preston. He's like, golly. Guess what?
Okay.
That was cool.
Flea Market Gold. I remember hearing as a kid, this isn't Romper Room, and now I need to look it up. Yeah. Neil Robotham, hello. I better get started here because we're wasting our time and I really want to get to our guest tonight, which, as Scarlet Fire says, is researcher, author, Astral Traveler, Gerard M. Pratt. We got Mountain Dan, just a few more, Dolly. Oh, well, let's get to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's see here. Let me pop up the little banner there and get to the bio. I'm going to go through this real quickly because I really want to get to our guest. I love the subject of out-of-body experiences. So, because, you know, both Dolly and I have had a bunch of them. And he's also had some, well, let me just read them. Gerard, our guest tonight is Gerard Pratt. Super excited to welcome him. He's a researcher, an author, astral traveler. He's very passionate about exploring astral projection and out-of-body experiences and believes that transcending the astral plane connects him with intelligent, ethereal entities and spirits, providing insights into the mysteries beyond the veil. Yes, I totally agree, Gerard. His fascination with the paranormal began in childhood, marked by vivid apocalyptic visions. Oh my goodness. And the unforgettable memory, I want to hear about this, of witnessing a silver metallic disc-shaped UFO soaring over his Liverpool home. Since 2019, Gerard has been in regular contact with the humanoid entity named Arya Bhatta and a group of hooded beings. His experiences during astral projection have allowed him to encounter various humanoid forms, Greys, Nordics, energy beings, blue beings. He's got an Arcturian entity. He is often accompanied by a guide named Stuart. This is interesting, knowledgeable in biblical lore, and a female entity he affectionately calls the teacher. Throughout his explorations, Gerard has met numerous spirits eager to assist him, and accessing spirit realms to connect with deceased loved ones. This one is interesting, Dolly. One of his most remarkable experiences was the opportunity to pilot a disc-shaped craft under Aryabhata's guidance. Dolly, as you guys may know, has also had that experience. Well, more than
I am a pilot. Yes, right. Yep.
she does it all the time. Gerard actively enhances his clairvoyance at a local psychic development circle, engages in group meditation, and passionately pursues the development of his psi abilities. Throughout his journey, he has had the privilege of attending physical mediumship seances. I did that once, where he has witnessed extraordinary phenomena. God, I want to hear about this, Jed. That's what we're going to call him, Jed. That's what he prefers to go by. He has witnessed extraordinary phenomena such as the levitation of objects, apportation, more remarkable materializations of spirits into solid matter. So interesting. Determined to uncover the truth behind unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, Gerard is deeply invested in human-initiated contact experiences, HICE, or CE5s, and is actively involved as a group expert at his local CE5 group, and embraces opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals at spiritual events and conferences. So yeah, all this stuff is connected. As you can see, Gerard resides in the vibrant city of Liverpool, England, where the Beatles came from. He has enjoyed a 25-year career in the British Army, specializing in military, railway operations, and infrastructure support. I'm just going to get to the show because you've got such an amazing resume, Gerard. Let me just bring you up.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
So we call you Jed, right? Is that right?
Yes, please. I mean, Gerard's fine, but Jed is what most people call me.
All right. Thanks, Jed. So excited to have you on the show. We were on a panel, gosh, what was it, 2-3 years ago?
Probably longer, all age slightly. But we still have our interest. We still have our passion in finding the truth. So, yeah, but it's great to see you again. I mean, it has been a while, but I've been away learning, developing, writing. So, yeah, it's been a busy period, but it's just great to be back doing Zooms and podcasts and things because I sort of went away to sort of develop and learn more. Sometimes you need that time, don't you? You can talk about things a lot, but you just need the space to just develop. And that's what I've been doing. And I have seen, I've been around a bit, as you see, from the seances and been involved with a spiritual development group and the CE5. So I've been a busy boy. I really have been out there.
Well, that's wonderful because you're getting to do something that I think not a lot of people have the opportunity to do, or perhaps the ambition. I don't know. There's a lot leads people to this. Which
I mean, researching's great, but you know, really, if you want to be part of this game, you've got to get out in the field. You've got to get into the boxing ring, and for me, you know, being out there doing the stuff, you just feel so much part of it. I love talking about it, and you know, and a lot of researchers do a lot of talking, but you know, you've just got to get out there and experience it, haven't you? So that's why I've put myself out there to see and learn. I mean, I already had some fantastic experience and still do, but just learning other sides of it, like the CE5 and actually, you know, going into seances and seeing, like, to actually see something levitate with the physical eyes, not specifically in clairvoyance, or to see, you know, a materialization of an entity. It's just, and even magic circles as well, you know, to learn about magic and occultism. It's just, once you go down one rabbit hole, you fall into another, and it just never ends. There's just so much to learn.
Yeah,
and it's fascinating. You know, I just can't learn enough.
I totally get that. Well, first, I just want to start by thanking you for staying up late. I know.
No problem.
Yes.
It
We have
actually
trouble
falls in with
sometimes getting guests in
it falls in
England.
my shift pattern because I'm as you know, I drive trains for a living, and I think I don't finish till 3 a.m. Tomorrow. So it's like it just this slots in perfectly with my shift pattern this week. So
Yeah.
no problem. Yeah, don't worry about me. You've done me a favor, in fact.
Very good. Awesome. All right. Well, like I warned you when we were speaking before the show, I always love to
Yeah,
start the show by asking guests, about their childhood.
yeah.
Did they have any unusual experiences? Were you a believer in all this stuff? And what brought you to where you are today? Because I know if you're an experiencer, you probably had some unusual experiences in
Absolutely.
childhood.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it started. I remember as a child having apocalyptic visions. I remember having OBEs as well, floating in a void space. And I used to always get sent to bed first. I had a brother and a sister, and it was quite a, I'd sit up waiting for my brother to come up to bed. But I was having these OBEs and things, and I didn't know what they were. But the apocalyptic visions, it was the same vision repeatedly, and it was of a burnt out landscape. And I knew that humanity was gone. It had wiped themselves out. That was what I felt. I must have been astral traveling because people would have seen me crying on the stairs, sat there. It was like must have happened 20 times. It was the same vision all the time.
How old were
It's
you?
sad. I must have been about 3 or 4, but my mum said that I used to speak to one of my deceased, my great grandmother as well. So there's quite a few things going on. I must have been quite intuitive, but what happens is you just sort of fall out of it, don't you? So by the age of 7, I knocked for a friend, and I was waiting for him to finish his dinner, his evening meal, and that's when I seen the metallic craft. It was sort of banking and coming over, then it turned and went away from me. And I just remember standing staring at this metallic craft. It was probably about 30 meters in diameter. As a child, I wasn't alarmed. I just stood looking at it, but I didn't really realize what it was. But I knew to call it a UFO.
What
I
year?
remember I just knew the term UFO. And I knocked on my friend's door, and his mum answered, and I said, "I've just seen a UFO." And she said, "Don't be silly. Stop messing about." And the next day I was in school. I can recall talking about it to other students. So, and I think back, you start doubting yourself. Think, did it really happen?
What year was that?
That must have been 1979, because in 1980 we moved to Africa. So it was, I think I was 7. So that I recall that distinctly. So yeah, I had the visions, I had some OBEs, and some spirit communication, and then the disc-shaped craft, but really that was it for me with ufology. I had a great childhood. We moved to Africa, and we lived at a mining company sort of community, in a mining community. I had a fantastic childhood, and I came back from Africa when I was 16.
Wow.
And that's when I joined the British Army. And during my time in the British Army, I started having OBEs again. So I think through my childhood, I was sort of, it was pretty normal, as you would say.
So this wasn't something you necessarily pursued initially. It just
not at the time. Not
Wow.
at the time, but it stuck with me because, like I say, I joined the army at 16, but when I left the army, the full-time army, I went straight into a reserve army career. But when I left the army, I started thinking about it, and that's when I started. There wasn't a lot of material, or there was in books if you knew where to look, but not on the television. But I just started getting into it and reading the Von Daniken books and a variety of other UFO authors. Timothy Good was probably my favorite at the time, with Need to Know and Alien Base and those books. But I just started getting into it, and that's when I started thinking more and more about the craft that I'd seen. So I think it was relevant, but it never stuck with me and bothered me as a child.
I have a question. When you were younger, 16, and you were going OBE again, would you go places? I mean, what were you doing OBE?
as a child, do you know what? I remember just floating around in darkness, and I was
Mhm.
scared, thinking, well, and it was just a repeated thing. I wasn't actually going anywhere, and that was, I was in a void, because a lot of OBEs class things as like consensus realities, voids, and I think I was in a void. I was just floating around or floating out of the bed in the bedroom, but I wasn't seeing any entities. I wasn't going anywhere. I didn't even know I was out of body, at the
Mhm.
time. I knew very little.
What about
Wow.
when you were 16?
That was different. I think I was 17. I just arrived at my unit based in Dover,
Mhm.
after I completed my training. And I think I was on guard duty. I was in the restroom. We have it was 2 hours on, 2 hours off. So you were tired. And I just remember waking up in the ceiling, knocking into the ceiling.
Mhm.
And I remember looking, and I was looking around, and I could see the corporal working at his desk in the room, because the door was slightly ajar. And I was up there for about 2 minutes thinking, what's going on, And then the next thing, I was back in my body. So I went and splashed some water on my face. I never spoke about it, because it wasn't the kind, the British Army of the 1980s wasn't somewhere you went and start telling people that you were having out of body.
No,
It's,
not if you want to stay there.
no, because the acid house rave scene was on at the time, and people were taking things called ecstasy pills, and people would start thinking, they'd send me for a medical evaluation. But this started happening quite frequently. I remember being in a dormitory, I was floating around watching people playing cards and different things, and I'd be back in, but I didn't know how to move my body around. I was sort of flapping around like a bird, thinking, that wasn't until much later, when things just happened again randomly, but it was more structured when I was older, with a sort of with guidance, shall we say. But at the time, they were more spontaneous, because the OBEs are either spontaneous, they're intentional, but they were spontaneous OBEs.
Yeah.
Did
Are
you
you?
recognize them for what they were? I mean, did you realize this is an out-of-body experience?
But I did, but I didn't have too much time to think about it. I did think about it, but I didn't know who to speak to about it or what to do. So I have a few sleep paralysis experiences and a load of these spontaneous OBEs, but it wasn't until much later, probably in my late 30s, where it started happening, but with intent, and guided.
Have you always
So
been psychic?
no, I don't think I was psychic. I mean, I've got psi abilities now. I think the more you astral project, the higher that your psi abilities go, because you
Actually,
tap
it's
in.
backwards. You have to be psychic to be able to do that. You have to,
Yeah.
because you can't remember an OBE unless you're in contact with your higher consciousness. Because
Well,
it's your
okay.
consciousness
But what I
that's
will
OBE.
say is, at
Okay.
the time, I was studying a palm reading book, and
Uh,
I had an Aleister Crowley magic book as well, which
yeah.
came by chance randomly. So I was interested in psi abilities. I must have been, because I went downtown on Saturday night reading palms, and
Mhm.
okay, I met some girls doing that who were very impressed with my palm reading abilities. So I wasn't doing it to meet girls, if you know what I mean. I was genuinely interested in the palm reading, but
Right.
and I don't know why that was. And people made a joke of it, and I had a name, Mystic Jed was my name. I come out to my room, and someone had pinned like a thing, painted a picture of Mystic Jed on the door. So yeah, there was obviously something going on. So yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you're
I
very
must have.
psychometric. You have psychometry going on. That's a side by side talent. When you can OBE easily, psychometry is part of it, because you're able to expand your consciousness outside your body, and that makes you. Psychometry is a type of empathy that goes beyond everything. Okay,
Oh, great,
and
Dolly.
when you
Thanks.
touch people, you pick up on them. You can read them. You're psychic, and OBE does help psychometry expand. That's
Yeah,
why. So you are psychic. Psychic, we're all born psychic. Everybody has the ability.
yeah.
But apparently you started really young, and that's interesting to me.
Mm.
I grew up being able to OBE. I never was taught. I just did. And I thought it was normal behavior. I really did.
Yeah.
And you're explaining that to me beautifully. You have a very natural, normal psychic ability and
I
talent.
pursued it.
Mm.
It took me a lot of work to get to it. And as soon as I did, you're right,
Mm.
Jed. my psychic abilities started really ramping
Me
up.
too. Me too. I mean, but like when I left the army, I had a lot more time to think about it, and that's when I started having visitations. I mean, the first visitation I recall was a guy in white robes, and he was stood next to the bed, and he just took me by the hand. And when he touched me, I've never felt, well, I have since, but it was like a oneness feeling with the universe, and a pure. And if I think about it, I'll cry. So he took me out of the body, and we floated off somewhere, and this started happening quite frequently. So things were starting to happen, and there was a lot of other experiences where I sort of heard, where a deceased loved one passed, and you would hear them minutes after they passed, speaking in the home, things like that, And then I think I was about 38, 39, and I seen loved ones in dreams all the time, speaking to me and saying, keep up the good work and all that. Yeah. And then that's when the OBEs started. But I didn't know they were OBEs. I knew they were OBEs, but I didn't know I was astral traveling. I sensed, because it wasn't intentional. So I'd say it was 38 when I was age 38 when it really kicked off, sort of thing, and it was guided. There was an entity sort of behind the scenes directing what was going on. It was like a training package. I kept waking up in different bedrooms and learning to spin and hover and move and go through the walls and things. And this happened.
Were your intentions amping up at that point? In other words, once you start to OB and you realize that it's happening to you, you start paying attention to it. You start
That's right, yeah.
And what goes from what you think might be unintentional, you understand that it is intentional. Your consciousness is going to want to go out no matter what. Your physical mind has to catch up to it, though. And once you open your eyes to that and you go, oh, and you see it, then it really, what you experience as wrapping up or seeing more and more and more isn't coming from anybody but you. You can't see anybody unless you're doing it. See what I'm saying? It's all you. And but it's like walking. You get up on 2 feet and you go, oh, I can do this. I can keep walking. And you start taking steps and you emulate everybody else. That's the same thing with your psychic abilities.
Well, here's my question is, what happened at age 38 that suddenly brought this to the forefront?
I don't know. It just started happening where it was regular seeing deceased loved ones, finding myself in these locations. But because they weren't wake-induced OBEs, and these are all dream-initiated OBEs. But it got to the point where I found myself, traveling across the Atlantic and flying to Greek temples. It was like 2 or 3 times a week, and I was starting to travel and see other deceased loved ones, to actually go and see them and make requests. But I knew there was a guide present, but he wouldn't let me. I say he but he wouldn't let me see him. And when I came back before I woke up, I could feel the information being fragmented and taken from me. Say, like conversations I'd had with deceased loved ones, some of it would be taken from me. Like it wasn't, either the brain couldn't handle the information or I wasn't allowed to retain it. And then one morning I woke up and I was out of the body. I looked and I'd seen my wife and myself sleeping, and I just ran through the bedroom wall. And it was around about that time when I decided to start actually studying astral projection. I thought, I thought, what is going on here? So I started getting some books, and we're talking about the William Buhlman books and Robert Peterson, things like that. I started actually learning how to lucid dream and I started with the lucid dreaming first, and then went on to astral projection.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
It really kicked off. But when I started doing it intentionally, it just went off the scales. Really,
your intentions are everything. You're in control of you, so that's important. That's very, very cool. Did you ever keep a journal? Do you have a long log of your experiences somewhere?
Absolutely. I put 70 journals within the book, and there's hundreds, but I just picked 70 which I felt would reflect what was going on. But yeah, I knew the journals were important, and because you're doing journals anyway, because one of the, your dream journal is very important for the intention and for your memory recall. So I felt, journals are a big deal. So
yeah, I always recommend people who are trying to do this, keep a dream journal.
Your
'Cause
intention
dreams,
journals, I'm actually reading the journal before you go to bed and thinking about it, because intention is a big part of it, isn't it?
Now, what was your very first verification experience? Because
good
one of
one.
the things I went for when I was doing all this was I had to prove it to myself, absolutely prove it. I'm either crazy or I'm doing it, right? And so I deliberately did something to prove to myself that this is absolutely real, okay? And I had somebody I know understanding that I was about to do it, and they were my verification, okay? And it was mind blowing for me. I was a young person then.
Yeah.
And, so, can you talk about that one?
Verification. That's interesting, because I think around about the age 40, I was going out doing a lot of experiments around the home. Even like playing cards on the table, or or trying to put light switches on.
Yeah, I've tried that.
Or,
turn a light on.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be traveling, I'd come back to the home, and I'd be like sort of trying to morph into the wife's body to try and sort of see if you can get a reaction. And but no one's actually seen me out of the body, I don't think. But my wife's come in the bedroom and seen orbs and things above me, and so that my wife has seen quite a few things.
What color orb?
Yeah, I mean, I've been given a lot of information about spirits as well, but that's verified that it's real.
Well, it's funny because the instant it happens, it's real, because there's just a feeling to it. You know what I mean? Like this.
Well, no, I mean, I class like the lucid dream, and I class them as subjective experiences, because you're in a dream and you manipulate the dream as such, and some of the characters are easily manipulated because they're your dream characters, so they're part of your subconscious mind, and it's hard to keep control of these characters. But as soon as you go into an astral environment, and this can happen sometimes without you even realizing, the entities are highly intelligent, and they dictate what they're much more intelligent than you, and they'll teach you something, give you lessons, and so it's two different things. But I think a lot of people who lucid dream may think they're astral projecting, and sometimes it's hard to disseminate. The lines are quite blurred sometimes.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you're with an intelligent character and they're directing what's going on, then I would say you're in an astral environment. But there's been like I don't know if you know where Dr. Joseph Birks, he's come out with a virtual model of a V1, V2, and V3. Now the V2 is like a matrix sort of reality. It's like the CE5 scales. But the virtual realities he's come out with, it's like the spirits can actually take you and put you in a virtual reality in the astral body, and manipulate the environment to wherever they need it to be. This is something that Joseph Birks has come up with, the virtual model.
I agree with that so much. I met an entity when I was 5 years old that to do me harm, was trying to mess with me mentally. It was very vicious to me, and it was very aggressive with me.
Yeah.
My great grandmother, who was very, very, very psychic, I told her about it because my mom went and talked to me. And she said, you need to take control of the situation yourself. She says, you have to tell it, you're going to tell it now to back away, never show up again. And if it does, you'll deal with it. And when I was in that situation the next time, I literally broke something off it had created, like a big newel, to a stairway. And I swung at it and I said, come near me and see what happens. And it started backing away from me, and I chased it out. And I realized then that I was in its thoughts, not mine. And at that moment I said, this is my house, my room, my life. Get out now. And it all vanished. Okay. And Preston said something to me once after we got together, because nobody taught me to do this. I did it for myself. He practices doing an exercise in all illusion.
Yeah, and all illusion.
Yeah.
That was actually given to me by a spirit.
Yeah.
because I would get trapped in a lucid dream, and I'm like, no, I'm completely lucid. I know I'm out of body, but I'm trapped in the, like you said, the lines blur there a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's an exercise that worked. Because as
Yeah.
soon as I did that, all these things started disappearing. I was truly out of body.
Yeah. One of the things about astral projection is, yes, you're going to meet entities around you and stuff.
Absolutely.
They're going to show you what they're thinking and drag you into that. And you don't have to participate. You can tell them, no, meet me on solid ground. We're meeting like we could be here. And that's it. And your reality might be yours, but mine is mine. Stay out of my purview.
Yeah.
And exert yourself, because a lot of people can be drug, and there's no other way to describe it. They can be drug into the dark side of things, And
yeah, you've got to have firm boundaries, absolutely.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But I mean, I'll be honest, we've had an infestation in the home, of course, because the lines blur. And this is why when you said about, like, how have you proved it to anybody? Ask anyone in the family, because we've been overrun with spirits, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is not a good thing, because there's a term called the hitchhiker effect. And I suppose that was one of the reasons why I joined the spirit group, really, and they give me certain prayers and certain sort of code words to say, and the spirits just will back off straight away. But it's generally a positive for me. I mean, a lot of the entities I've communicated with are eager to help, but I realize that they're not always who they say they are. But it's not my job to upset people, because everyone seems to have a guide, by a grandiose name of religiosity plays a big part in some of these grandiose names. But I've been shown that they shapeshift, and they're not who they say they are in many cases. I'm not saying they all are, but from what I gather, there's many spirits want to appear more important than they actually are, and they all tell people. So if you're communicating and all you're getting is the voice, that might not be who they are. But that's right. But then again, I've got friends who've been told, when they've asked them, are you who you say you are? And they've said, what's more important? My identity or the accuracy of my information. So, but like I say, I've been face to face with them, and they've explained the shape-shifting abilities to me. So, but we've had them in the home. Some of the entities that I've communicated with, I've seen physically in the home as well. And I mean, there is one who's quite dark, but he's actually helped me get out of the body. It's showed me certain movements and things to induce OBEs, which is fine. And I say, thanks for that, like, for the help. But then in another experience, I've seen him, like, he's tried to show me he's dissecting an animal in sacrifice, and I've seen blood on my hands, and he's trying. That that's not me. Thank you very much for your help. Because you've got to be respectful, whether they're dark or not. I mean, just because an entity's dark, you've got to be firm with your boundaries, but you've got to be respectful. And that's something I've found. And if you're respectful and firm, that I found they're okay with that sort of thing. But that's one negative. I've had so many positive guides and spirits. That's just. But I wouldn't even class him, because he wasn't negative to me. But he's clearly, quite a negative.
Now, when I first started having
my vibration, anyway.
When I first started having out-of-body experiences, they were very, very short. It took me a while to learn how to lengthen them to, a minute, and then 2 minutes. And
absolutely.
Is that something you experienced as well?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you get out the body, you're on the clock, aren't you? I mean, I'm thinking that's one of the problems. I'm thinking about the time, and you need to get as many things done. I found myself running around trying to achieve my OBE list, because that's another thing we haven't mentioned. It's good to have an OBE plan, so you'll have something in mind that the next 100%. Time I go out of body, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there.
Right. Intention is everything.
Have a little plan, and it be something as stupid as, like, I'm going to ask to see God, or I'm going to go here and see what happens. And one of the things that I always I started trying to do, was I thought, I'll tell you what, I got stuck on a wall, or the floorboards actually. And I remember I shouted for help, and the next thing, this entity was there, and I tried to grab its body, and it disseminated after it helped me. And I thought, well, that's just subtle matter returning to, it's done its job, it's gone. So then the next time I got stuck on a wall, I thought, no, just stay where you are. And I shouted help, and I started counting how many seconds it takes until a spirit comes. Because sometimes you might not see them in the home, but they're not far. It took about 5 or 10 seconds, and my hand was took, and it was an elderly lady. What was her name now? Sue. Her name was Sue, and she helped me through the wall. But she was quite sad, and whether she was a local spirit or someone that I hadn't crossed over, I don't know. But I haven't seen her since. But that was quite like 5 or 10 seconds. That's all it takes. So they're there and they're willing to help.
Yeah, we have a lot of interdimensional beings around us, while spirits in the third dimension are here with us too. And a lot of times people will misinterpret somebody who, they'll say, well, this person is just around. What the heck? They're around my life. And every time I go out, they seem to be around. And what you're probably dealing with is somebody in the fourth dimension who lives in the same dimensional space with you. And they're just there. And if you're out and you have a problem, they'll immediately try to help you, because they realize you see them at that point,
Yeah.
that your ability to go out of your body means you become interdimensional yourself. You are an interdimensional being. Okay. And you're in that mindset, and you can go way through everything, just about. If you're getting stuck in walls and stuff, remember that, you don't, it's not solid to you. You can get out of it. Just think about it.
But these are intentionally getting stuck to see how long it takes till somebody comes.
Oh, on purpose. Oh my goodness.
It's like trying to find a telephone. I mean, like, telephones are for communication. So one of the things, well, let's find a telephone and see who's on the other end. Things like that. Experiments when you're out of the body.
Okay.
Like one time I thought, well, how much wall can I go through? Can I go through the whole house instantly? It's just, I put a list of experiments in the book that I've done, but one thing I found is I started to find I was having a portal that was behind my head, because we find different ways of going out. So at first I'd be floating up through the timbers, and I'd have a little fly around the local area. Then you start thinking, you might see another traveler and try and give chase, and then you can't keep up with them, and you're looking for things to do, because you've got to think quick. Like Preston said, you're on the clock. You haven't got that much time. I'm thinking, how long have I got? That's how stupid it is. But then you start dropping through the bed, and then you start thinking. But what I found was what started happening. I found there was a portal that was behind my head. So I'd sort of drop into this portal, then like a diver on a backflip, I suppose. And then I'd be into the portal, and you see all the coloured lights, and I'd be concentrating on where I wanted to go. And that's when I'd arrive at the location. But then I started finding entities coming through the portal and like taking me by the hand. So it develops, it changes, it progresses, and it's one of them things. But you never stop learning, I don't think.
Yeah. Have you tried to go to the upper realms?
That's just what I was thinking.
Yes.
Because you explore the physical world for so long, but at some point you get drawn towards the higher planes.
I kept finding myself getting as far as the upper atmosphere, and it was starting to frustrate me. And I remember one time I'd been up, I got stuck in the atmosphere, and then I remember I felt, because I don't know if you believe in the silver cord or an energy cord. It's the tether to the physical body. Now I don't see the silver cord, but what I've found is there is a connection to the physical body that feeds the astral body in some way. Think of it as a Wi-Fi thing. It's not like a physical cord, but if your physical body is connected to the astral body somehow, and it provides energy, and if your energy is lacking, you'd be pulled back to the physical body. And that's why, the more your body's in tune, your chakras and all that, the more the energy body supports the astral body. I've actually seen the astral body floating above. So, using the physical eyes, I've actually seen the astral body above my body. And at first I thought it was a spirit. And then the next thing I seen, it was me, and I look and stand. So it's a bit of a strange one. I don't even know the term for this, but you actually
you're simultaneously doing two things. You're remote viewing yourself while you're astral projecting. Yeah. Your mind is able to walk out and look around everywhere, including your astral body.
But I've digressed, haven't I, there? Because I'm trying to say,
yeah.
So anyway, I was adamant. I remember one time I just put my arm out the bed and said, please just take me to the spirit realms. And I remember I seen an entity come towards me, two hands, and the hands went round my back and lifted me up, and we floated up. And I must have been, I thought it was my grandmother, because my head was sort of by her chest. And I said, Gran, is that you? And I could hear talking, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. And after about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, we stopped. And then my vision returned. And that's when I see my deceased mother-in-law waving at me from her bungalow. And then she invited me in for a cup of tea and stuff. And I remember just going straight. I could have opened the door, or I could have walked through it. So my interpretation was in this, whether it was the third heaven, there's different terms, isn't there? But for these dimensions. But I could have gone through the door physically, or, well, I decided to go through the door, you know, as I would normally in an astral projection anyway, but I could have opened it with the handle. I think this is one of the biggest things I've learned from this, is that there are spirits knocking about. You know, people don't believe it, and it's a strange, but they do retain their physical form. And there are consensus realities where we're living, where our deceased loved ones are living, and they're living a much more perfect life than we're living, but as above, so below. So they live like we do for a time. That's what I understand, and there is progression. And I've been told I've had 759 incarnations, which is quite interesting, because if I ask a question, generally I will get an answer if I can justify the question. Why do you need to know, sort of thing. But
have you ever heard of the Akashic Library?
Oh yeah, of course.
Have you tried to go there?
Well, I tend to see it as in paper format with all the information. So if I ask for something, I'd be given a list of all the information. So I've not actually been to a library. However, I had an experience where Stuart, one of the guides, he's read biblical books to me before, and he seems quite biblical. But I had an experience where I was flying over a sort of a Middle Eastern land, and I crash landed in some fig trees, and somebody rescued me and took me to their home. And I was there, it felt like a few hours, you know, and I had dinner with the family, and then Stuart turned up to take me. And on the way, where he was taking me to the higher realms, but on the way, we stopped in a cave, and there was a lot of books. There was 10 red books and 1 black book. And he said to me, you need to learn the information that's held within these books. But I don't think that was an Akashic library, but you know, it's another guidance to learn certain things. But I'm just shown like documents with all, maybe because I think it's whatever your perception would understand, but the information's coming through. But in order to receive that, you've got to be at a very high state of resonance. It drops up and down, I find, you know. But you've got to be careful as well, because I asked for information. I was given information, including people's death dates, and I thought, you know, I don't really need to know that, like, because if I asked for someone's name, I'd be given a full list of the information, and that is they have come to pass as well. So I don't ask anymore. I don't need to know. I'm happy with. I've got enough going on, but you know, to be given that information.
I started having a lot of precognition when I started doing astral projection.
Yeah.
I'd come back and I'd, you know, have, you know, clairvoyant visions and premonitions, or dreams that came true, all of this stuff. And it became
first one I had, Preston, it was, there was a guy pulled a knife out in this dream, and I tried to tackle him, and he stabbed me 3 times. And I was lying on the floor, and the voice kept saying, the Arndale Centre, which is a shopping centre in Manchester. And then I seen it in blood across my vision. And a week later, I'm sat on the sofa, and it came on the TV, the news, you know, 3 people stabbed in the Arndale Centre. And there he was, the same guy I tackled with the knife. It was his picture. And that was probably one of the first, that was in 2019. And that's when I thought, well, you know, the guides know, why would they show me that? I think they were just letting me know that they did know the timelines, But divination isn't really my thing. The group I attend, we tend to ask for prophecy as opposed to divination. If they wanted to give you the prophecy, that's fine, but I don't tend to sit sort of divinate and asking for things, because I think that what you got to think, what kind of spirit's going to give you information about certain things. With prophecy, it's different. But that's
Totally
just my.
agree.
I would never knock anybody. I never knock anybody for divinating, but why do you need to know sort of things, certain information? But it's just something that the group I attend don't try and teach against. But on saying that, I wouldn't, if I would divinate if I felt there was a need to do it, sort of thing.
Well, you mentioned reincarnation and
Yeah.
having past lives. Did you ever intentionally try to explore what some of your past lives might be?
I've never been interested. I've got enough going on with this life, and I've had that many experiences going on since I started Astral Traveler. I thought I don't need to complicate things even further by finding out, what I've done in the past life. So it's never been something that's really interested me. I'm more into getting out the body and being taught lessons by the guides. See, there's a as far as I'm concerned, from what I understand, we have it was termed the Holy Guardian Angel by the esoteric and the occult, and it's an entity, your casual self, effectively. It's a casual aspect of you that lives in a higher dimension, and by being in line in resonance with this higher guide, things start to happen. So it's just about trying to learn and seeing what they can teach me and how I can maybe help this entity sort of progress further, because I am part of this entity. Some people call it the daemon or the Holy Guardian Angel. That's what the occult calls it. It's linked to every individual, and that they need us as much as we need them. That's what we're here for, because we're the essence of that entity, and to progress, they need us to do certain things, but they can't tell us to do. If we're in resonance with it, we can get more information, and this is part of what the occult teaches. So that was an aspect of the occult I found really interesting, of the esoteric, the sacred magic of a Bramble and the Mage.
Yeah, well, that's one of the really interesting aspects of your book, is you dive into a lot of some of the ancient history of this subject, as well as your own current experiences. It's really interestingly juxtaposition there.
I wanted to go down that road because people talk about astral projection, but they don't really know where it came from. Because obviously out-of-body experiences have happened for time eternal, really, haven't they? But the term astral projection came from the theosophical, let's get this right, from Theosophy, Theosophical Society, which was started by Madame Helena Blavatsky in 1898, I think. But she coined the term astral projection. That's where it came from. So Theosophy is taught astral projection, intentional astral projection, at quite a high level. And then we had the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and you'll probably know about Dion Fortune, Aleister Crowley, and it was rumored even Bram Stoker was a member of this esoteric organization, and they taught astral projection at a high level. It was classed as a very high level for them. So that's where I wanted to touch on in the book, because I thought that if I don't, then I'm not really being true to what it really is, because it's not just something you just brush under the carpet. And the same with ufology. These esoteric organizations, they had ideas about what extraterrestrials were, what the craft were. They had it all worked out, but no one speaks about it. Maybe they don't believe it, maybe they don't want to know, but it's there, and we're not reinventing the wheel. And they had it all worked out about astral entities and craft being astral craft, and the non-physical craft entering our dimension, shall we say. So they're not saying they are intelligent entities, but the esoteric believe that the craft were non-physical and they were from astral realm, other dimensions. And then of course we had the interdimensional theory, which I suppose did come from the esoteric, but I'm digressing there. But astral projection, I just felt I had to touch on them subjects.
Right.
I would love to talk to you about those particular subjects. Give you some information you don't know. Teach you a
But it
little
can
bit.
go quite deep. I don't like to get into too much things. I mean, I'm not an expert on magic and the occult, but like I said before, when you go down one rabbit hole, you fall into another, and you need to know.
I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in magic. I only understand science, period. And I understand data and what's real and what's not. We live in a society that has driven us to see things under those terms because we had no explanation for them. And we have evolved enough now that there's enough information out there that can teach you what is and what is not. And one of the things that I can tell you is that you are being physically visited by ETs. They're not here right now for a reason, and you don't know that either right now, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I'd love to talk to you offline,
Sure, we can do.
Things. Yeah, ETs there are many different ethnicities of them.
Yeah.
Life exists throughout the entire universe, especially in the third dimension. It's all corporeal. And we all have the same DNA. You have the DNA of all life on Earth in your body right now. You have the DNA of grass, bonobos, bananas, you name it. You have DNA from that. It's locked in with your genes. We are all one in that aspect. And we are also one with all living entities in the third dimension throughout our universe. And that is a realization that science is finally starting to admit. They also admit openly that there are ETs and they are coming here physically and have for a long time. And why? The craft themselves are biological, and to carry the extra dimensional entities that come in with them. The craft that I fly is piloted or indwelled by a fifth dimensional non-corporeal entity. And he can only come here with the craft because the craft becomes his physical body in the third dimension. It is like that for all ETs. Now, ETs are very good OBEers like we are. They all indwell their bodies like we do when we're in the third dimension. They all go back to source when they're done with the body, just like we do. Okay. And they can, when they're in the body, wherever they are in the universe, can come through to you psychically and show you who they are. They can talk to you. They can OBE to you and actually manifest in front of you. Some of them will manifest as an orb. I've been told twice, and I'm on film doing it. When I OBE to people and places and things here, I come off as a blue orb. Okay. And we've actually proven it. It's me doing it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It is interesting to me. You have tons and tons of experiential experience with this. Phenomenal experience. I have never talked to anybody like you yet, ever, up until you just now, where you have unbelievable ability. And I hope you realize that you do, because not everybody OBEs at a very young age. You have to be very wide open psychic to do that. Okay.
Right.
And the fact that you've been thirsty for what is natural for a very wide open psychic person to do. It's like a baby who's hungry for food. You're hungry for the truth of who you are, what you are, and why you are. Okay. And you're experiencing everything all at the same time in this lifetime, which is very cool,
Well, this is one of the things I love about your book is you started doing it. This is exactly what I did. I'm like, okay, let's set up all these experiments. Let's explore this.
Well, one of the most amazing things, and Dolly, you spoke about the ET connection. Quite early on in 2019, the ET elements of it made itself present. Now, I thought that Arabata, who is the hooded guide, and he's in a team of 3 hooded beings, by the way, he was the link. And he said to me, he was the one who said, we've initiated the extraterrestrial experiment, or the experiment extraterrestrial is what he said. But after the craft experience, he was present. And I called him forward and said, come closer, don't be afraid. And he placed his hand on my head. And again, it was like when I was a child, well, not a child, but when that angelic entity placed his hand on my head, it was a feeling of oneness, of love with the universe.
Right.
It's a wow experience, but the entity Arabata is connected to.
I know who you're talking about, by the way. I know who that is. I really do. I know who Arabata is. Not Arabata, but I've met Arabata, OBE, and extra.
Right.
but I know who you're exactly. When the picture came up, I went, "Oh my God, I know who that is."
But it's a hybrid being.
Yes,
But, I mean, there's been
exactly.
times,
Very hybrid being. You're right.
but there's been times when I floated out of the body, which is called an indirect. I mean, there's time. I mean, we have direct experiences, but there's indirect where you just wake up and you're out, but you know you're out. You're floating above your bed, and he's been holding my hand, and I've used my etheric right arm, and I've felt the structure of his arm, which is not human.
When
It's
you're very good
humanoid.
at it, when you're very good at it, you become physical on the other side. When I'm OBE, I have a physical form, I can feel it. And so can anybody else. If I touch you, you've been touched. I'm using my physicality to touch you. Just because you're in the third dimension, you're a being of light. We all are, okay?
Yeah.
But we're gravity heavy in the third dimension. So we don't see it. Our eyes are not made to see out past everything. That's why you've got a pineal gland that can perceive what that is. Okay. And you see through it. But your the energy that your body is using to hold you in, you know, your who you really are, your intelligence, your light, will allow you to go out, and you are tethered to it. People do call it the silver cord, but it's not really. You're very close to being exactly correct. It's sort of like Wi-Fi. Okay, you're in
I
connection.
never saw it for years.
I've never seen it
twice.
And
I had
people
to
keep
search
going
for
on
it.
about it all the time. And
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
you're just connected to yourself, and you know if
But I
somebody
felt the energy drain. You know, I have felt an energy drain, so I know there is a connection.
Right, and you do have to be physically fit to have really good OBEs. That's
right.
You know?
And I found like that you fit. I mean, when your body's in better shape, you do tend to. And a lot of OBEs will say, like, you know, lose a bit of weight, and I obviously haven't followed their advice. But you know, it's definitely true, because the energy that needs to be, but not so much with that's where we're talking about with the phasing model, which is something that Robert Monroe tends to talk about with you know, with the gateway process. That's more like remote viewing. So in the seance circle that I attend, we do meditation classes. So I was at one tonight actually, and you tend to that's more the phasing model. It's what we used to call traveling clairvoyance, you see. So you just you know, you just let your visions go, and sometimes you feel like you, but it's not like the separation model OBE where subtle matter body has moved. But it's still interesting. So I align with both models. For me, you know, both the separation model and the phasing model, which is the Robert Monroe sort of model.
One of the things that I learned early on, and it's because my ET contact, my actual the entity, his name is Kalata, okay, and he enjoys the craft that I fly, and he is one of my guides. He has been my guide from the very beginning. I didn't realize it until he just finally one day said, "You realize that I am your guide." I'm like, okay, you know, yes. He has always tried to push me toward learning. In other words, I have to learn everything for myself. If he gave it all to me, I would not be working it properly. You can't employ what you don't understand or know. Okay. So you have to research it for yourself. You have to teach it to yourself, literally. Even though you don't know what it is, you look for resources, you use your own evidence, you do all kinds of things, whatever it takes. But the other thing I found out from Kalata is that the universe is conscious. Their conception of God is they call all mind. And I really understand that now. I know what they're talking about. This really is what you would call God. And it's a mind that is in us, on us, around us. We're all part of it. Okay. And all you have to do is tune into it. Okay. It has a frequency. And if you walk into that frequency, but you have to allow your brain to shut up. Okay. You can ask it anything you want, but you have to stop thinking in your own physical mind to get the answer. Okay. And it will tell you anything you need to know. It'll even point you in the right direction and give you ways to get to where you need to go to understand, to know it, and then employ that information for yourself. Because that's the point. We're autonomous beings and we have the right, and it's necessary. This is how we learn. This is how you evolve, and this is how you become wise. Wisdom is evolution, okay, of spirit, okay, which we are. And it amazes me that there are a lot of people on this earth, just like you, just like me, just like us and everybody else. We're all on a track. Okay. We're all learning for ourselves individually. Okay. That's what autonomy means. Now we're supposed to help one another. We're not supposed to let anybody go by the wayside. If you're asked for help, you give it. You're right there. Go ahead.
Mm.
I don't help anything negative. I tell it, bye-bye, see you, woo-woo, go figure it out for
You
yourself.
tried. It
Yeah.
did not work out that well.
Yeah, but if I'm with you and if an entity is generally asking me for any help whatsoever, I will provide it.
Mm.
I've been in a few instances in my life where I didn't know what the heck was going on and went, I need help right now. And it got provided to me right now, and
Mm.
it was like, thank you. But they didn't tell me what to do. They told me how I could get to it. And those are the ones I automatically trust. If you're going to tell me what I have to do, I'm not going to wholly listen to you. I'm going to take what you say with a grain of salt and think this one through. But if you say how I can get to it, what's right about it, and which way to, that I might point myself and where I can resource the information, boom, boom, you got me. I'm listening to you. Okay.
Well, one of the things I really want to ask before, because there's so much
Mm.
to talk about, but you sent this image here, flying the craft.
Yeah.
Where you write, I was presented with a profound question. Gerard, do you wish to know your future? A woman in a striking red uniform guided us to a magnificent disc-shaped craft. Now, Dolly talks a lot about learning how to fly the craft. So this is interesting to me, where you had this opportunity as well. So I'd love to hear about that.
It was quite an early experience, actually. And
early.
it's one of them where my head had only just touched the pillow, and that's when the question was presented to me. And the next thing I knew, I was with a group of people, stood next to it. It seemed like an aircraft hangar, and the woman in the red uniform approached and asked us to follow her. So we did do it, and she took us to the craft, which it looked pretty much like the one in that picture. That's as close as I could get. And we went up the ramp onto the craft, and somebody else. There was a panel on the wall, and he had his hand on the panel, and he lifted the craft up, spun it around, brought it down, and I put my hand up and said, can I have a go? And she invited me to go to the panel. I placed my hand on the panel, and for some reason I had to say a few words, and I felt I was syncing with the craft, which I felt was alive. But when my hand went on the panel, I just felt it was nothing I've ever felt before. It was part of me. I was part of it. And all of a sudden, I felt more intuitive than I'd ever felt before. I could see for miles around all at once.
Become one with the craft, right?
Yeah, I could see for miles all around me at once.
Yeah.
And I knew there was no harm coming to me. It was just a beautiful experience. And I just thought, let's lift up, and it went up and spun it around and brought it down, and there was a connection. But yeah, I could see 360 degrees for miles at the same time. I don't know how. I've never had that ability in the astral body, but there was certainly an extension. And I think you said it before. The entity who you've mentioned, the ET entity, an extension of him. It's a biological extension. The sphere of
craft is alive. Yeah, he indwells it. It's his body. Yeah, and you become one. When I fly, I don't have bells and whistles or anything. It's all psychic, and I become one with Talata, and we fly together. Okay.
But that was something. I mean, after the craft experience, I got a message at the spirit group saying, "Tell Jed, because he doesn't need a helmet to fly the craft." Because I started looking at something from Richard Doty. He was going about the Roswell Greys had a headset on, and he'd have certain things, and straight away spirit. After I've seen this documentary about Doty, and I actually seen him at a conference in Manchester. I asked him, and the week later, I got this spirit message saying, "Tell Jed he doesn't need the helmet. He can fly the craft with mind alone." And I thought, wow. And that's when they turned up with the. Well, I think it was a craft phasing in. I'd never took a picture outside the house before, never. I remember, I think it was someone on Grant Cameron's podcast, somebody I know called Tress, who said, "I suggest everybody goes out tonight and takes a picture of the sky outside." And that's the first picture I took outside the house. And when I looked at it, I thought, is that a craft phasing in? And there was a beam coming down to the garden. And but the reason was because the week before, I was having an out-of-body experience, and I got trapped in a beam outside. and it felt like a glue.
Huh.
And I was a bit upset by this. I thought, that, you know, why don't you just ask me? I'll just come up to the craft, you know. And I was starting to be a bit funny with them. And I was like, I'm teleporting out of here. I thought, I'm going, you know, I'm not being beamed up.
You're shifted to the fourth dimension. When it's an energy beam.
Yeah, but I thought, they're not beaming me up. I thought, I'm off.
Yeah.
I thought, how dare you, sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And what happened the next, and so that's when they give me the photo. The week later, I got the photo of the craft of the beam. A week after that, I turned up at the spirit group, and you're guessing, I got another message. Tell Jed we meant him no harm. But I never told anyone about this. I don't really know.
Yeah,
tell Jed we meant him no harm with the beam. We were just going to lock onto his astral body. So they're really sentient and they're apologetic. But you know, I feel mean because I should have just went with it. You know what I mean? I was trapped in the beam. I wasn't scared. I just thought, no, what's going on here, sort of thing.
You decided, no, that's all. Yeah. Did you ever feel asked to learn to pilot?
Was I asked? No, I don't think. See, this is the picture of where I got above the house with the beam.
Yeah.
That was the first ever picture I ever took in the garden of the sky. And I don't know, I got that. And it was 1 week after when I got the message, tell Jeb, we meant him no harm. And they wanted to show me the beam to let me know so that's what they said. But, you know, I could say, well, I hadn't told anybody about that. And this guy at the spirit group, the medium who gave me that message. And by the way, I give messages too. But the guy who gave me that message, I thought, wow, you know, so.
You've heard of the Nazca lines, right?
Of course, yeah.
You know, well, the little known fact, people don't know all of them. They don't show you all of it, but there's a picture of a craft that looks kind of like the one you're talking about with the beam coming down and the energy ribbon coming down in it.
Wow.
And it's, I've got pictures of it. And real actual pictures of the Nazca lines where this is. And people look at it and go, well, what is that? And I said, it's the beam. It's the beam they put down on you. And then they drop an energy ribbon in it that changes, it puts you into the fourth dimension so they can lift you up. And not everybody gets real happy about that beam. I mean, it's a little shock. I was shocked the first time I got hit by it. You know,
wow, you've had it. But the fact that what was funny, because sometimes you're out the body and I ask questions and I don't get any answers. You know, I'm floating around the house thinking another test. You ask questions and no one. But on that particular night, the voice came in loud and clear from Arabata, and he said, "They want to see you." He kept repeating, "They want to see you," and that's when I thought I ignored him. You see, I shouldn't have ignored him. This is Arabata.
Yep.
And he's one of three beings. They're a team of three, and I've seen him before doing rituals, but I'll come on to that. But he kept saying to me, "They want to see you," and so he was giving me the indication, but I was a bit silly, and I just felt I was trapped in the beam, and I thought, you know, you don't need to trap me. Just I'll come aboard. There's no problem. You know what I mean? But Arabas is one of three, and I've had experiences where, you know, I've been with all three of them and I've been communicating with all three at the same time. Like I am one of the three. And then I've dropped back down to the frequencies, back to the physical. And that was a wow experience, dropping down to the frequencies after being, and that's when, and some of them look, you know, one of them's got a few red markings, and you don't look aesthetically very, you know, too good. But at the time, you're at one with them. But then when you're back in the physical, you think, oh, you looked a bit scary, them beings, didn't he? But when you're with them, it's not. But I remember seeing them perform a ritual by the side of a river, and I was watching them, and I thought, well, I'm going to go now because I'm sort of intruding on wherever they were doing. So I flew away, and I looked behind me, and Arabata was flying behind me, coming after me. I thought, oh God, and he flew level with me, and he showed me his face, because this is it. That's me on the left there watching them perform this ritual. The ritual he were performing was probably to affect change in the physical, most probably. Or they were probably waiting for me, I don't know, but I seen them. And that's when I flew away then, but he followed me. Because I think I'd asked...
Water? Were they getting water?
I don't know what they were doing. I didn't
Well,
hang.
I can tell you what they're doing. They're testing the water. ET
Possibly.
watches everything we do, and they make sure that everything. In other words, they have to know how stupid we are. Okay, and
Oh,
if
they
they're
do think
polluting
that's
everything, it doesn't. It looks like a ritual to you because they're doing an actual test, and they take
Well,
back their test and get the results from it. They sample water, grass, dirt, air, you name it. They do
really.
geological surveys. Yes, they watch this planet like hawks, and they know everything that goes on here. Everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's why on the book cover I put the picture of the Earth, because when I've seen him as a 3, the Earth's a big part of what they do. It's important, and we're important to them, very important. But
Yeah.
when he showed me his face, that it scared me a little bit. You know, I don't know why. He didn't do
Well, they're
anything.
a little different.
But
I,
just
I
sort
have
of like,
two hybrid sons, and they kind of look like that.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
They're a little bit more
I
Nordic
don't,
looking, but it's the
I
same.
don't know why he scared me, but
Yeah.
you know, it's one of them
Not
things.
I
used
love the cover of this book, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't know whether it might be a bit dark with the 3 beings, but it's deceptive, you see, because there's other beings that aren't hooded and they're darker than they are.
Yeah.
Then I would say that they're light, to be quite honest with you. So it's deceptive. Looks are very deceptive in this game.
Yeah.
I say it's game because it's not a game to me, but you know, and there is other entities. But when you mentioned before about what they're doing, like looking at some of the messages, if I go back to some of the messages I got from them, and the first one is, we want to change the way humans think. That's one of the messages I got.
Very
Another
good.
one was, we need your help. This is important. And then I got, well, they put me in the consciousness of a bull, actually. This is another experience. And I had to feel what it was like to be slaughtered as the bull in front of a crowd cheering, a crowd of humans cheering as this poor animal was slaughtered. And then I heard the voice really loud saying, mindless humans. So I started to think, you know, whoever these, they're not humans, whoever they are, they're close to humanity, but they don't think much. They think we're quite silly, really.
Yeah, well, they're highly evolved beings. I mean, they're billions of
Yeah.
years in evolution from us, you know?
Yeah.
And everything we do, and one of the biggest concerns they have, and I've been told this millions and billions of times, is that we have to stop being so violent and hateful, and we have to learn how to love one
That's
another.
what they think about.
That's right. You
They
know?
don't trust us.
No. Well, they just understand what we are, and they hold us at an arm's length because of that, you know. And they're looking for people like you and lots of other people like us on this planet to speak to, so that you could spread the word, you know. And,
Well, that's what they told me at the spirit group. They said the reason they're giving you these experiences for you to tell other people to not be in the state of fear that they're in.
right.
Because a lot of people are living in a state of fear, and they were the ones who told me to. They said it's time for you to pen your experiences. They said there's an entity. This entity is chosen prior to this lifetime to give unto you the ancient knowledge. That's what they told me.
That's it. You also agreed to do that before you were even born.
Yeah, it's already been agreed.
Yeah.
The entity will give unto you the ancient knowledge.
Yep.
And they also told me I'll be communicating with these beings to pass the information on.
Yep.
So yeah, you know, it opens up a whole new thing when you've got to change the way you think and you realize you're part of something much more important. It's like you're going around and something, your priorities change. I've changed, you know, because you've got to, haven't you? You know, unless you think it's not real, but you know it's real, you know. But yeah, when he came through after that, I was just sat in the chair in the lounge, and I was just suddenly knocked out, and I was in his mind again, in his eyes, and he came through, and that's when he said to me, he showed me a lot of things, but he said, "Do not fear death." He said, "Your life to me is only about 2 weeks long." So their timelines are much different to ours.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
my
just
whole
talked about
life.
that to Preston the other day. I tried to explain it. It's really hard, but we feel like we're living slow time. You know, we get the
Yeah.
great hour of time here, and we think it's a long time, but it's minutes to less than minutes to them. You know, we conflate
That
time.
makes sense to you, Dolly, because he said my whole life to him is about 2 weeks long, and
Yes,
he said,
exactly.
you know, the transition will be seamless.
Right.
Do not fear death, is what he
Right.
said.
Exactly.
He said, it'll be like going on holiday.
Mhm.
You meet people on holiday, then you say goodbye at the airport. that's what each
Exactly.
lifetime
And
is
then
like.
you walk out. That's
This
right.
is the holiday. So if this is the holiday, I don't know, but this is the holiday to
I try to
them.
feel that way every day. Yeah. Try to make it one. Try, do my best.
Yeah. And they're the kind of messages like make room to expand your consciousness. They've said like, but they did say to me, many of the characters used by us are fictional characters and are designed to deliver specific experiences. So some of these like virtual realities I found, I don't know what that meant, but not everyone is real. Some things, some experiences, some lessons are delivered.
Yeah, well, I
And
think you see that with near-death experiences and people seeing
yeah,
the cultural images that are, in their religious beliefs.
I think one of the things that I learned from them with regards to this is perspective. Everybody is in a different perspective than everybody else. Okay.
yeah,
And how you were taught to think, the physical mind taught to think, that's how you're going to visualize or experience things through that lens, okay, that you're looking through. And that's why cameramen are so important in the movies, because each one has a unique perspective on what's going on. And some are better at it than others. Well, think about yourself the same way. And you have to deliberately develop your ability to see what's really there. Okay. That was one of the first things that I was taught, is quit looking at what you think is there, see what's really there, and practice doing exactly that. And it makes you a better communicator. It makes you a better experiencer. It makes you, there's more understanding in what you're seeing. The truth, because it's the truth coming at you point blank. You let it in, And I have a question. Have you ever heard any of them tell you, you're us, we are you, we're all one? Okay.
Well, I kept asking the question, can you tell me who the ETs are, who they really are, and where they're coming from? Because we ask these questions, and that's when I got told, Jed, they're already us. We are them, whatever that means.
You are us, we are you, we are all one. There are progenitors.
They're already us.
Talking about the genetics of all of this, we're all in source together. We're not different. We're all in source together. And we come out to learn. That's all.
The funny thing about greys, though, is, the first experience I had with a grey was probably 2018, actually. I remember waking up on the night and I just seen an entity stood next to the bed, and he jumped into a hole in the air, and I thought, am I seeing this? I just rolled over and went back to sleep. And then the next time I remember seeing one on a craft. It was some kind of altered state, and he was waving at me, this grey. But I remember saying, because I didn't know there's a connection here, and I said, higher self, please show yourself in your true form. Now, I don't know whether I conjured something here, but I woke up and I was out of body. I knew I was out of body, and there was a grey in the bedroom, and he was stood, and he allowed me to examine his body and all that, and I got a voice message. Yeah, that's what he looked like. And he allowed me to examine his body. And I got a message then to drink lemon juice and to buy black onyx, because I got electric shocks for the rest of the week. Every time I touched the door handle, I got an electric shock. So I think my etheric body, my astral body, by coming into contact with this entity, has caused sort of transfer back to the physical body, which has caused me to get these shocks. So the black onyx, which I did buy a nice little piece of bulk, a big piece of black onyx, I don't know. I think that was Arabata telling me.
You're just amping your ability. You turn the volume up on it, literally, and because it happens to me. If I'm busy around here doing something and I'm employing my abilities, I will shock myself everywhere I go. I blew arc onto things. My hair will stand up straight. Weird things happen around me, and it's like, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down.
Do you think them shocks would definitely do? But I couldn't think of any other. I've never had them since. Before,
it went back down. But when you're absolutely wide open using your ability, when you're in contact with them, they can't communicate with you any other way. That's why they want everybody on this planet to learn to use their abilities. There are people here walking blind because they can't, and they can't talk to them, literally can't join with them in any way, shape, or form, because they're shut down. They can't get in. this way,
Mm.
what you're doing. So when you're with them, their abilities are very high volume, high
Mm.
energy. And so you're with them and you amp up for that. You amp yourself up into that situation. And when you come away from it, it takes a little while for it to amp back down, but you're just letting that go just lower. I try
Yeah.
to tell people, I want you to understand something about frequencies. A
Mm.
frequency is not something that everybody can change. A frequency is what it is. You have a frequency. You think in a frequency. You have alpha, beta, theta, gamma, delta brainwaves, and they
Mm.
produce a frequency that's only yours. It's only your frequency. I can identify you by it. Everybody on this planet and everybody in the universe has a frequency. What you have to understand about frequency, it's a byproduct of thought or action. Like if you strike a bell, it produces a frequency, right? But you have to strike it. That's communicating with the bell physically to produce that frequency. You have the ability to transmit your frequency out and it's heard. You can't change that. You are who you are. The only thing you can do is elevate your
Mm.
ability and elevate your thinking, elevate your wisdom. And that's an evolution, not a frequency. Okay.
Mm.
But when you're in frequency with somebody, when you're in communication with them,
Mm.
you can turn the volume up on it. You can amp the gain.
That makes sense. Yeah,
okay?
definitely makes sense.
Okay.
Because I think when you're in that resonance, you are. And I found myself giving money to charities, and I sponsor children sort of for their education actually.
Mhm.
All those kind of things. I mean, I find it ramps up that the whatever energy you're creating here, the resonance is one of love and one of oneness, really. And I've found that works. And you
And
can't
it's amazing.
really stay in that state at all times.
No, it's a little tough. You got to back it down every now and then, take a break. It's
But
like hard to be in the
I
body.
think it's like we
Your
talk
body
about the
wears out.
C5 stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the C5 experiences happen when people are in that state, and you've got your lack of fear as well. Fear is a big thing, but there's been times when I have had fear, and that seems to block things because
Right.
nobody wants to really scare you.
I do want to pop some questions in from chat here in just a second. But I do
Brilliant.
have a question that's impossible to answer. People have asked me this. What is your favorite astral projection experience? What is one that was really profound or beautiful, or one that really impacted you in some way? And I know
Wow,
this is a
that's a
hard question
really
because
good
there's
question.
so many to choose from. But
That's a really good question, actually.
One that you consider really important or special, or doesn't
Well,
have.
I had a visit from a deceased friend called Oscar, and I remember getting a message saying you will be visited at 1:38 by your recently deceased friend Oscar, and just like the message said, it happened. And they said, "Oh, don't touch him, don't speak to him, just observe him." And I come round and I found myself sat in the middle of a room, and Oscar came in and he walked around the room, never spoke to me or looked at me, and as he left, he gave me a cheeky grin and walked out.
Wow.
And then I was hit with a telepathic message and he says, "I'm okay." He said, "I'm a bit annoyed about not being able to communicate with my family, but just tell them I'm okay." And that was it. So that was quite interesting. The way I was told it was going to happen.
See, I knew you could do it. That's a medium ability. You're actually able to communicate with the other side. You're that psychic, okay? That's pure gold right there. You were being shown that you can do that,
Mm.
And when somebody comes to you and they want to communicate with you, it's up to you to decide to let them in or not, to talk to them or not,
I'll tell you another quick one, which is quite good. My cousin needed help. I mean, she is a medium and she lives in Glastonbury. Now, this is something she needed information off my granddad. So I said, "Listen, I'll try my best." And I thought about this for a week, but how am I going to do this? I thought, okay, the next time I'm going to go to my granddad. And so I remember, I think I was already in a lucid dream, but I transitioned and I went through a portal and I came through and I got to him. I remember he was in bed and I went, "Man," and this is me. I went round to the bedside. This sounds crazy. And I'm saying to him, "Do not be afraid. It's Jed." I'm here. It's like normally you would expect like them to say that. So I'm going to the spirit now. I'm going to the spirit, and I'm saying, do not be afraid. It's just, you know, in his ear. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I said, do you know how hard it was for me to get here? You know, cut me some slack here. This is hard work. And then I asked the questions, and he which I can't say, and he wouldn't give me, well, he didn't know the answer. He said no, but the idea was I extracted the information I needed to get, and I took it back and I gave it to my cousin Mel, and she was made up. So that was interesting. So because it demonstrated my ability to actually target an individual and travel straight to them to get the information.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more you're going to get targeted by. I'm not kidding you. Preston has a nephew who passed, and when he passed, I was in my room. I wasn't. He was in California, and I was in Georgia, and I'm trying to go to bed. I was just laying down, you know. I went to bed early, and I just wanted to relax. And all of a sudden, this kid is standing there in front of me, jumping up and down, waving his arms, going, "Tell Preston to OBE to me right now." And I'm like, "Who are you?" And he says, "My name is James. I want Preston to come to me now. Tell him OBE to me right now." I mean, he was literally jumping around, and I was like, "Oh my God!" So I called Preston, and he had just found out that his nephew had passed. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, now I understand what I was looking at." And I told him, "You've got to go now. He's waiting for you, literally waiting for you." Okay.
Wow.
And Preston had to stop what he was doing and go to OBE to find him, and he found him. He was waiting for him.
Yeah,
literally.
I've pretty much
seen in portals. I find, you know, you instantly traveling direct to a location. But
I look at him. It's like a portal is a door, right? You understand that, right?
Well,
a portal
I'll tell you.
is a term for a door. It's an interdimensional doorway.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a door between.
I kind of look at them like the tunnels with near-death experiencers describe. That's how how I've experienced.
Well, I'm going to tell you an experience now. And this was quite an early one, around about the craft timing, and I was out of the body and I was floating above Liverpool and Manchester, and I was actually floating, thinking, right, who am I going to visit? And then you start thinking, well, should I intrude on these people? You know, but before I knew it, I seen myself, I think it was me, coming towards me at rapid speed, and it merged with me. So whether it was a higher level of myself, I'd merged and I wasn't in control anymore. All of a sudden, we're lunging towards the earth now at a fast speed, and I'm a passenger now. And I'm thinking, right, we're going to hit the earth. Okay, I'm in my astral body. It's not going to hurt, you know, just get on with it sort of thing. And we're coming, and then it was a mountain. And the next thing, a portal opened. And we went through the portal. And I'm like, I was breathing a sigh of relief now, thinking, oh. And now I'm just relaxing now because I can see all the colours mesmerising. And we started slowing down. And we arrived at what I can only describe as an inner earth base. And the same people who were on the craft in the red flight suits were at this base, and they greeted me. He actually gave me a hug, this guy. And I didn't know him, but the being that was inhabiting my body, astral body, knew him. So in a way, I didn't know that I knew him, but he knew me. And he showed me around the base, and he showed me there was even craft there and things. And
you got hijacked. It's not like he takes over your body, but he's going to take you with him whether you
he
like
was showing me something.
You can
I think whether that's because he didn't want me doing what I was going to do, intruding on somebody, or whether or not he just felt it was time to take me somewhere. But that was an amazing experience. That was one of the, you know, because of the way this portal opened and the way I was scared, you know, that was a wow experience. But again, and the verification of having multiple visits with the same people sort of adds to the way, you know, it's not just a one-off thing. There's a regular contact.
You got a spirit group. You're all part of it, you know?
Yeah, but I didn't know what the connection with the Greys was, because, you know, I thought, well, so we've got Greys going on here and we've got Nordic type beings. I think they're Nordic. I don't really know. What's the connection? I don't know. It's does there have to be one? At the end of the day, you know,
they work together. They work together. They're in this
like
iteration.
they're all one. You know, not as much separation.
done anything to ever harm me, because you hear all these stories, don't you?
Yeah,
But
no,
it's been
no.
extremely positive. You know, okay, we've had a few things going in the house, but the first time I attended the psychic group, though, this was quite interesting. A guy said to me, he said, this is before I had intuitive abilities as such in the meditation. It took a while for the meditations to develop and for me to start dishing out the messages to people. And I thought, you know, with my astral projection abilities, I thought, this is going to be a breeze. I thought, I'll be knocking out the messages before you know it, but it didn't happen that way. It came in symbology. And so where I was having like clairaudient messages in the evening, voice messages, that didn't happen in the spirit group. I started getting symbology. But anyway, I'm digressing. He said, there's a dog never left your side, he said.
No.
The next day I was driving a train to a power station in Yorkshire, and I seen the dog. It was running alongside the train, looking at me. Then I seen the crossing gates are open at the foot crossing, the level crossing. The dog runs in front of the train. You know, obviously, I hit it. I put the brakes on, and I thought, you know, yesterday I got told it was a black dog wouldn't leave me alone in the group, and that's when I thought, you know, this psychic thing is quite serious. I thought, do I really want to carry on with this, because this is what, you know, I knew the realness of it, how it affects you. Because I was obviously very
And I have good days and bad days with it.
yeah. But, you know, so it was a combination of the experiences then and what I was getting in the spirit group.
Mhm.
You know, there was a combination of things going on then. So
I would like to pop up a few questions before we run out of time.
Of course, yeah.
Because here's one. I think that Dolly, you asked this early on. You said your wife, Jed, had seen orbs above your body. What color were these? And do you think you're an orb when you OBE?
No, but she walked into the bedroom. I'd gone to bed early, and she's never seen anything so bright. It was like a big white orb above my head, and she was tucked back. And she woke me up, and I said to her, which I can't remember, I said, I've just been communicating with a guide. That's what I said to her. But the whole family's been involved in this. Yeah, the whole family's been involved. I mean, what started happening, she was in the kitchen, and she's seeing like a black shape floating past her. She's seeing all kind. I don't know if it was my OBEs that was causing this, or her own. She's quite intuitive herself. In fact, the second message I got off her about her was, you and Margaret were matched.
Yeah.
The second message. And the third message I got woken up in the night, and I didn't know who I was or who she was. And the voice said, this is your wife, Margaret. She was a nun in a previous life. The message said, you must protect her. You have the necessary gifts. So what's all this about, you know? But she's got a good clairvoyance. She's seeing a lot, and she sees a lot of orbs in the house. I don't tend to see them like she sees them. I've seen things, and voices. And I'm going to tell you something funny now. I was in the spirit group, and the medium was taking a while to go into trance. So being cheeky like I am, I'm thinking to myself, okay, give us direct voice phenomenon. And for those who don't know, independent direct voice phenomenon is in the air. It's not from anyone's mouth. Whereas direct voice phenomenon is directly through the trance medium's mouth. So I was saying, give us independent direct voice phenomenon. And I kept repeating it for 10 minutes, quietly. Nothing happened. I get home. I walk in the door. Margaret said, I've just had voices in the kitchen, she said. For about 10 seconds. And I said, well, that's funny, because I've been asking for the voices. So what's all that about? I ask and she receives. It's like, what's going on with that? You can play. It's funny, isn't it? It's like, maybe because I asked, I didn't get, and she got.
I don't know. I think you transmitted it actually to her.
I think so.
Clairsentience is a very high form of ability.
Did she understand the voices at all?
No, because it was in like we think it might have been Latin or Hebrew, but I've had it as well. We've had them both together. We've been both lying in bed, and we've heard, someone calling our daughter, and we've had a lot. We've had a lot of voices. But she's had them a couple of times. But is it Latin? Is it Hebrew? The mediums in the group speak in Hebrew, so. Oh wow! But I don't know. Latin and Hebrew are two common languages.
Yeah, I
woke up one night and there was someone speaking Latin in front of me.
Yeah, I had a guide when I was young. Okay, and I
Yeah.
could hear her and see her. All right. And she had a name, Kuba, Quba, Kuba. And my mother was driven crazy by this being. Okay. And my mother finally heard her talking to me behind my door, my bedroom door one day. She answered me. I asked her a question. She answered me. And my mother burst the door open. And Kuba told me that she would never leave me. She would always be around me, but I might not see her after a while. And I said, why is that? And she said, because you're not going to need me after a while. I said, okay. But she would call me when she wanted me. Now I've got a daughter, and when she was the same age I started seeing Kuba, my daughter started seeing this entity. And I said, Emmy, what's her name? And she said, Sabri Kuba. And I went, huh? And she said, Sabri Kuba. And I said, really? And I said, ask her if her name, she told me her whole name when she was young. She said, no, she only called her Kuba. And I went, thank you very much.
But you
And
knew.
but she's with me my whole life, and she latched onto my daughter. She never told me anything wrong. She always told me the truth, and she was very, very wise. But she spoke to me in high classic class Egyptian. I understood every word she said. My mother told me she heard her speak Egyptian, not English, Egyptian. My daughter also is fascinated with everything Egyptian from the get-go, remembers Egyptian past lives, and would speak with her in Egyptian. And it's really weird. You ought to listen to what she's saying when she's talking to her. You
It's
know?
hard to know the language, isn't it? I have found myself in like an Egyptian temple with all the hieroglyphs, and I'm in there, and and you tell me why I'm here, and sometimes they don't give you an answer. Sometimes they just want you to see. You can't guarantee, you can't tell them when to come through, and like I say, they decide when. It depends on the situation. But yeah, amazing. But one of the things I wanted to get in regarding the extraterrestrials, if you want to, I don't even like the term extraterrestrial. I mean, they call them the species in the group, but we can call them whatever we want. I just call them friends friends, to be quite honest with you. But I remember waking up one night and I could see like multiple craft. I think there's a picture of it, Preston, and that's when I got the message that said humanity will be given a new propulsion system. It was something like that. The craft. I was shown something like that, and the message was humanity will be given a new propulsion system, and it will change the world. And that was after I got the message that they had initiated the experiment extraterrestrial. So when I asked about this experiment extraterrestrial, I said, "What does it mean?" I mean, this sounds horrible. I said, "What's in it for me?" Sort of thing. Why? I know that sounds greedy. Like, what's in it for me? I didn't say it like that as such, but they said evolution.
Yeah.
They showed me two versions of self, one evolved and one unevolved. So my interpretation is it's like a fast track evolution. All these lessons, because there's another being I haven't mentioned, which I call the teacher, and she delivers the lessons. And she's a very beautiful lady. She wears a veil, very calmly spoken, and a lot of the time, well, I've had about 6 or 7 sessions where I've been with her, and she just teaches. So I called her the teacher. I don't know what other name she's got really, but yeah, the experiment extraterrestrial was quite an interesting one. So will we get a new proposal? This is the teacher. She's that's the closest I could get of her. It's obviously very beautiful, but yeah, it's there's a wide variety of beings, and they've all got their own individual skills and abilities. But will we be given a new propulsion system? It looks like there will be something on the horizon, doesn't it? So we'll have to wait and see. But they said humanity will be changed forever by that. That's what they said to me.
I'm going to pop up another question from Arvo. I'm not getting to all these questions. Sorry, guys. We're running out of time quickly. It's so interesting, Jed. Thank you. This one's from Arvo. How important is managing the awareness and emotional triggers while astral projecting? And I like this question because thought rules when you're on the astral plane. Any thought you have has such an impact. Emotions are really powerful. Your awareness is
absolutely
off the charts. Things are so vivid. So what would you, how would
there's been times when I've tried not to think at all, and apply emotion. Like, for example, I've seen things and I've tried to. I've learned. It's an interesting question because I've learned to block out thought. If you can cut, because you start thinking, and then before you know it, you're back in the body, like we said before. So try to block out thought and just do whatever your tasks were, whatever your OBE plan was. But yeah, emotion can play a big part. There was one time I'll quickly say, during COVID, I remember I found myself, Arabata took me to see deceased loved ones, and I thought I'd passed. I'm patting my body, thinking, you know, when my great grandmother came over, she put her arms out to me, and I thought, hang on, have I passed here? Am I done? You know. And anyway, on the next experience, they took me back to a family party. They put a bit of a party on for me, and I remember thinking in the kitchen, don't go into the lounge. Your great grandmother, they were all in the lounge. I thought, I'm staying in the kitchen because I know it's an emotional trigger, and if I go in the lounge, I'm back in the body. Because if I see my great grandmother again and all that, and she puts her arms out, I'll be gone. So you've got to. I have thought about those things. So you just try and keep the emotions low. Don't get too excited, and try not to think too much.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to pop this question up because it was first. It's a little bit off of a tangent, and I'm not really qualified to answer this, but I'm putting it up because it was first. He says, I'd love to get a question on the list early. What is Preston's and Dolly's thoughts on the book Ring Makers of Saturn? It presupposes that there are craft in Saturn's ring, nonfiction, by the way. I haven't read it, but offhand, just by the nature of the question, I'm skeptical. Can't really say for sure because I haven't read the book. But as far as I know, no one made Saturn's rings. So.
No. It's dangerous to stay in them. They'll fly through them, you know, look at them, ring around them, whatever. But no, it's not. No. No.
All right. Well, how about this question from the Astral Tourist? I astral projected as a baby. So was I born that way? Because you kind of touched on that. Both of you have it as. I never had this as a kid. You know, I had to work hard to get. Well, there's a few indications.
All right. I have a question. Jed, are you the oldest? Oh, no, you're the youngest. So
I'm the youngest.
Okay, so
I got
you were
sent
sent
to
to
bed
bed early. You had more privacy than the other two. I'm the oldest. I had all the privacy in the world, and I didn't have a brother until I was a little bit.
You think that's a factor?
Yes, I do. Because you're not being bothered by things, and you're able to experience yourself.
But I think there's something to it that people are born to some extent with this ability, but I suspect it's because they learned it in a prior life, perhaps.
Everybody knows how to do this. Your consciousness is aware of everything. It knows everything.
Well,
you know, your physical brain has to learn it, not your consciousness.
In the esoteric, some of them felt that like the first 700 lives, you don't astral project. It's after 7. But I don't know. I mean, Aleister Crowley, who's in the esoteric, he thought that everybody can be taught, but it was quite a high level. But you know, so. I don't think anyone really knows, you know what I mean? It's one of them things that people could debate about all day long, isn't it? But
I would want to debate about it. If you have guides or you're trying to ask the question, it'll be answered. Everybody can answer to that.
Well, I have to put this next question up because we're literally at the end of our show here, but this one keeps getting bandied about, and I'm concerned about it because I don't prescribe to this theory, but Susie writing is asking, a lot of people who astral project are talking about the concept of Earth being a reincarnation trap. How do any of you feel about this theory?
No, that's to make you afraid. Don't believe it. It's not true.
No, I don't think it is a trap.
No, it's a school.
Yeah.
We're all in a school. Everywhere we go in the universe, there's a school.
A few of the conferences I've been to lately, people don't have to put a negative spin on things because that sells books, that sells things. In my experience, I've put myself out there and wide open, and I mean wide open, to everything that's going with these beings. And I've never felt so closer to the source. It's been beautiful. There's been a couple of transgressions, you know, okay, I was strangled once, I've been punched a couple of times, but I have really put myself out there, you know, and I'd say 95% of my experiences are highly positive. I don't think we're trapped in anything.
Not.
Gnosticism tells the story of the archons and being trapped and all that, but no,
It's
I don't think so.
disinformation. It's trying to make you afraid. Don't do it. Not afraid.
Okay, we have time for this one, I think, from Evan B. Regarding your book, are you teaching people how to do it?
Yes, I reserved 2 or 3 chapters, well, primarily 2, to getting out of the body, but it's mentioned throughout the book. You know, we discuss it throughout the book, but the last 2 chapters are primarily for OBEs, because I didn't want to push too much on people in case they didn't want to actually go through the process. So you can still read about bits, and you know, but
just reading about it is a really good way to learn how to do it.
Yeah, but the last 2 chapters, if you want to go for it, you could go straight to the last 2 chapters. But the book won't be out till the 1st of July now. There's a lovely woman doing the editing and design, and we're a little bit behind, so it's about 3 or 4 weeks off at the most. I thought it'd be done by now, but yeah, it's going to be worth it. But
all right, so you said July is.
I think the 1st of July, yeah, because that's about 4 weeks away, isn't it? Because we're at the late May now.
Is it going to go out through Amazon, or is it going to go out?
Of course.
Okay.
No, it's going out through Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect.
It may be out before the 1st of July, I hope. Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited. We'd love to have you back on once it comes out.
Yeah, as soon as it releases, would you like to come back on with us?
I'd love to come back. We've got so many concepts we can touch on and talk about. You know, I've probably discussed about 10% of my experience, but you know,
I know.
There's that much. I don't know. It's difficult, you know, to work out, because 2 hours goes back like that, doesn't it? It's so fast when you're having fun.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome. I mean, really, really interesting, Gerard. I knew it would be. I told you, Dolly, he's going to be a great guest.
We were excited. Literally.
Next time we come, we can talk more about the seances and what it's like to, because there's a physical medium called Stuart Alexander, who's the world's most famous. Well, I'll say famous. He's the best physical medium, and we were so lucky to get invited down for a guest circle with him as well, and that was really amazing. Yeah, so
that would be delicious. Yeah.
Well, very awesome. So, do you have any last words you want to tell the audience here, or any upcoming? Or
well, you know,
we talked about the book, so.
No, I mean, for astral projection, we spoke already. Memory recall is the most important thing. Lack and fear, your intention is absolutely paramount. You must want this. Get a good OBE book, preferably mine or yours, Preston, and go for it, and just don't be scared. And yeah, you know, it may take a bit of physical effort. You may have to get some sleep disturbances. If you're someone that's not getting any sleep, you know, maybe it's not for you at this time, but there will be sleep disturbances, and let it unfold, and the psychic abilities will come. It's a fast track to psychic ability, in my opinion. You know, when I went to that spirit group, it was wild, the stuff that was happening. So yeah, I know for a fact that psychic abilities will be fast tracked with astral projection.
Well, I appreciate it. I can't wait for the book to come out. You were gracious to send me a pre-publication copy, and I think it's destined to become a classic, right up there with Robert Monroe's and William Buellman.
Don't be building me hopes up, Preston.
If Preston says it, it's so. He's very good at
That's it now. That's it.
Good critic. Everybody listen to him. Go get this book.
I'm not after making any money from it. I just wanted to put my experiences out, really, you know, from a heartfelt sort of sense. And it's been hard work. It has been hard work, I tell you. And I'm on the second
book. Very much so. Very much.
It's still a niche subject, so people who will need this information will find it. And brilliant. I think you're doing an important service for all these searchers out there.
Absolutely.
All the hard work will be worth it in the end.
All right. Well, we're going to have to say goodbye, unfortunately, at least for now. But thank you so much.
I'd love to see you guys again. So we'll do it again.
Stay on with us after we shut the show down, and let's do dates.
Okay, I'm not running away. Don't worry.
Right.
Okay. I just want to thank you all for watching us on The Light Gate. Our guest has been Gerard Pratt. Check out his book, The Astral Traveler, coming out beginning of July, if all goes well. Maybe earlier, maybe
Maybe earlier.
later. But thank you for all you guys watching, especially you guys who donated. It means a lot. Namaste, Star Orchid. You guys, it helps us to do this show. Farah, we cannot thank you enough. Bob, you guys are amazing. All of you joining us today. Glenn Anderson, wow, amazing.
Oh my God.
Truly appreciate it. Janie Mashburn, you guys are just awesome. We love you so much.
Yes.
Great questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them all. Thank you, Yahira. You guys, we have so much fun with you. You make Monday so bright for all of us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next Monday. We have a great guest lined up. So Dolly, I guess it's time to take us out.
All right. Thank you for
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for contacting us tonight on the Light Gate. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We came to you live on Roku, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. I want to tell you all to have a wonderful week. Stay safe and namaste, everyone. Night, night. We love you. Mwah.
Look at all those wonderful comments.